our first episode where we have a surprise guest and two scheduled guests joining. So very excited to see how this goes. And I think we're covering worldwide. We have Kelvin and Dustin calling in from London. Is that right?
That is right.
Yep. It's
So,
work trip.
Work trip.
well, yeah, because madness is work, so you get to expense it wherever you film, right? And we got Charity and Phyllis from CIS calling in from the US, of course. But very thankful to have both of you here representing a tournament that has a lot to do with where you work.
Thanks for having us. I'm excited to be here.
Good to be here.
Well, let's go ahead and kick off and give a quick reminder as to what's going on here. So let's first talk about our scoring professional, Hal, and let's review that first slide where we review some of his rules. As a reminder to everyone, if this is your first time joining, this is a configuration madness tournament where we are debating which setting team will have more value from a security perspective in the first half of scoring. But then in the second half is where upsets can really happen, where compliance starts to take a point effect, if you will. So in the first half, we could have some strong security team winning, taking the cake, and then if it's not that valuable from a compliance point of view, upsets can happen. I know we've already debated quite a bit with our scoring agent Hal, really preferring those log-based teams as opposed to some of the security-based teams. So it'll be interesting to see what upsets we have today.
Charity and Phyllis, if you're ever on the fence, Hal values logs above all else.
It's a safe bet.
Good to know.
I saw that last week.
And speaking of Hal, so as we are all debating who we think will win and what's more important from our experience and our own backgrounds, which I'll let us all introduce here shortly, we have to abide by the greater force that is AI. And in this version, our host, who's stuck in a TSA line, Lawrence Cruciana, has developed an agent, Hal, the hardening and logging computer. So he is our official winner guidance and is effectively making deterministic decisions based on recent events, recent things talked about in the industry and aligned to CMMC. But there's also his high value. We introduced Riz last week as to how Hal is really scraping all the forum. Sure, everything is up to date so that winners.
Zach, your
back?
sound is going in and out.
That is heartbreaking to hear. I have not moved.
All right, there we go.
Okay, let's hope it holds. We might need to have our producer step in and help facilitate. I'm not sure.
So just recapping the piece that when Zach was in robot mode, the Riz score was Hal, as of last week now, will look for recent events. So if something comes up a lot around a security incident or just the hype from controls, it weighs that more heavily. So we were joking last week, if somebody went and created a bunch of Reddit burners, you could probably rig a couple of these games.
Ooh, influencing betting. That's fun.
Yeah, it's the best.
That's real hacking in real time. Hopefully my Wi-Fi is back. Can we hear me?
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we'll see how long it holds. And Dustin, you did so well at covering me. If you need to start taking over, you do your thing. So let's kick into the first game. And we have baseline missing versus DNS filter missing. So one of these teams is really focused on the foundational of security, having a baseline, knowing that every system is set up correctly. But DNS filter kind of allows users to, click straight into command and control. So let's kick off with our panel host, Dustin, with his guest, Kelvin. But give us a little lay of the land. Who do we think's taking it?
Yeah, so I'm wearing my insurance hat most of this time, and I'm big on the whole cybersecurity poverty line concept is huge for me, especially in insurance. Just the bar is low. We're not seeing very many people with CIS IG1. We're just happy whenever they have MFA and good backups. So I'm going to go with foundational controls every time. So baselines. even if it's some super simple stuff, right? We got good backups in place. We have MFA on and enforced, that sort of thing. Baseline all day, every day.
It's also kind of a weird compare because if your baseline would be okay, your DNS filtering is okay because it is incorporated in your baseline. So it's kind of a false compare at this point.
A false compare. I mean, we don't know how these teams are determined. We just report the winner. That's all we're here to do. That's a good call out, Kelvin. And as this is your first time joining, you mind giving a short introduction of yourself and your background?
Oh yeah, absolutely. My name is Kelvin Tegelaar, 7 times Microsoft MVP. Don't worry, I won't ever ask you to pronounce my last name. I have an MSP in the Netherlands. I own one. Lots of fun. And I also am the creator of CIPP, or SIP, Cyber Drain Improved Partner Portal, used by 11,000 MSPs today to manage M365 and apply baselines.
Making Microsoft easier to apply baselines. I love to hear it.
So it's the perfect game to kick off for him.
Exactly.
It really is. And if I didn't say, this is the official second round of Misconfiguration Madness. So we are going to see some repeat teams like our 1 seed, baseline missing. But let's kick into Phyllis. Do a quick introduction of yourself, and let's go ahead and have your prediction on who's more important from a security point of view.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Phyllis Lee. I'm the VP of Content Development here at Center for Internet Security. So that means the CIS Critical Security Controls team, as well as our benchmarks, which are secure configuration guides or baselines, fall under me. And prior to working here, I've been here around 8 years. I spent 25 years at the National Security Agency. And, you know, of course, I have to choose the baseline. So I would say year over year, threat reports like Verizon data breach points to having a secure configuration as one of the top things you can do to defend against top threats. And like what Kelvin says, having a good baseline helps really implement many other security controls, like MFA, like, you know, patching and things like that, turning default settings on for automated patching. So I'm baseline all day, every day.
I love it. And let's pull up that first half score so we can see who Hal believes is winning from the security perspective. And while we get that pulled up, Charity, do you mind introducing yourself a little bit? And it looks like the panel does have it correct. That first half score is going straight to baseline being more important from the security side. But Charity, you have a governance background, short introduction. And do you think baseline is going to continue holding it, or are they going to be upset?
Absolutely. I would have chosen baseline as well. Secure configurations all day, right? If Hal favors logging, I favor IG1. So absolutely. So a little bit about me. I'm Charity Otwell, Director of Critical Security Controls here at CIS. I work for Phyllis. I've been here for about 3 years. I manage the team that, you know, creates the controls themselves and really manages the ecosystem. And then I'm responsible for, you know, the relationship management of that and really the evangelization of global adoption of controls. Before joining CIS, I do have a governance background. I was in governance in banking for almost 18 years. I don't even know that it was called governance back then. I just really liked process, and it made a lot of sense. So you'll probably hear me talk about IT process a lot and IT governance in the panel today. But yeah, I manage teams with governance, business continuity, also very relevant for these topics, incident management, and enterprise architecture. So thanks for having me.
I love it. Absolutely. And do you think now that we're leaning into compliance, I know for the audience, this is heavily weighted towards CMMC requirements. Our panel host, Lawrence, who is our CMMC level 2 MSP, is typically the one introducing, you know, the second half score to see what they believe. And I don't know, anyone here, do you have a strong CMMC background, or are we all generalists around security? What's the vibe of the room?
Generalist.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm a generalist, but I will say, you know, we do map controls to a lot of other frameworks, and having a baseline is something that's consistently mapped to, I mean, pretty much every framework talks about having a baseline. So
I think that's a very important call out. So let's see if Hal, with his CMMC biases, is going to keep baseline missing.
Oh.
And we have our first upset. Oh, the 1 goes down.
DNS
now this is because the DNS filtering adds extra logging around what people are actively doing. so it gives observability versus a baseline doesn't give any observability?
That would track with some of the other upsets that we've had.
It does depend on what we're calling in the baseline, because all the audit pool policies, I mean, those can be set to success and
Yeah.
failure. You can get a whole bunch more.
Yeah, I agree.
So a little bit
Interesting.
of a surprising outcome. I do think Lawrence is going to have to come on when he's out of his TSA line. Thank you, DHS. Unfortunately, being closed still, but let's hope Lawrence can shed some light in that in the post game debrief.
For sure.
All right, let's go ahead and keep this moving into the next matchup. We have Mail Gateway AV off going against a fan favorite from what I've heard in the audience forums, SMB V1 Zombie Share. I'm going to hand this straight over to Phyllis because I saw her kind of wince when she saw SMB V1 pop up, and I want to give her a chance to tell us why.
I mean, that's an oldie but goodie, you know, and I always have to flinch when people are like, "Oh, it's still out there. It's still exposed. It's still easy to, you know, exploit." And so, which one is worse?
More important from a security perspective.
Oh, which one is more
first half
important?
score?
Right. More important. I mean, I think it's a toss-up, but I think I'm gonna have to go with.
So Phyllis, let me throw you a curveball. So the very first one we did, whenever Matt Lee was on, and this came up, at first we were just like, oh, it's a chain attack. You have to be inside the network. And then we realized people still open dumb ports to the internet. Do you want to guess how many? Matt did the search live on air. Do you want to just guess a ballpark of how many SMB ports are still open directly to the internet on Showdown?
Oh no!
No.
Please let it be like less than 20% of what he scanned.
I don't know the percentage, but it was about 28,000 hosts with SMB open to the internet on the default port.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
So that was my thing where I was like, okay, I'm going to change my answer a little bit.
And you have to remember that it gets even worse because SMB is blocked by most ISPs inbound.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So it's even worse, but they're just being actively blocked as well.
There's a lot of people trying to open it to the internet.
Yeah, but like leading against HAL, I would say that you would say that the Mail Gateway AV is off duty would be a bigger problem because again, you lose observability. And with the SMB Zombie Share, you can still have logging and all of these other things in place that make you detected. And with the other one, completely being off duty, imagine someone actually disabled it fully. You're not getting any logging anymore either, so you have no clue what's going on. You don't know how screwed you are.
Yeah, entire environments can be flattened with SMB v1 getting in, but a phishing email just gives you access technically. You know, if you don't have additional controls in place, maybe you're stopped after that initial access. But let's go ahead and see that first half security score. And it does look like SMB v1 is taking it. So the HAL biasy trend of trying to predict HAL is yet again misguided. He's just a sporadic AI. So looking at this from the compliance point of view and governance, a little bit on charity, I mean, do you agree with this first half score? Are we surprised to see SMB v1 taking it in the first half?
No, I'm not surprised. It's proven to be a problem in years past, and it's an exploit waiting to happen, right? So leaving this enabled without like documented justification is a risk and an unmanaged risk at that. So that would be a direct audit finding in your vulnerability and patch management systems. So yeah, it would be my choice too.
All right, SMB v1 charity is going to keep that lead. Any insurance takes you want to have on this? Are you guys actually checking for networking protocols to be up to date?
No, it's going to be more scanning for SMB being open to the internet, period. I don't know that there's any version scanning taking place. So I can tell you on the Mail Gateway, AtBay did a really interesting study that they published around email gateways and kind of where they saw incidences. I think it was 23 or 2024, but they did one and they showed the percentage of claims that they saw. It was 365 native, Google native, Mimecast, and 2 others. And so they said statistically, Mimecast in front of Google is the most secure email configuration you can get. I have strong feelings on that because it kind of goes back to Microsoft's not great at securing the defaults. Google comes out of the box locked down a little bit more. So there's a whole rabbit hole we could go down. But insurance side, the mail gateway, do you have a third-party mail gateway is kind of the big piece that's going to be asked. And that's about the extent of it.
So we expecting a upset comeback in the second, or feeling on the SMBV one like the rest?
I'm going to vote for Mail
SMBV one.
Gateway. Mail Gateway.
Gateway.
All right. All right. We got an upset panel, and let's see if it holds. SMBV one held the lead, and it actually widened it a little bit. So Hal and CMMC, his biases, really is making sure networking protocols stay up to date and are not exposed. All right, let's keep this matchup going. What do we got next? All right, we got default accounts alive, something I know we had quite the talk about in round one, going against server firewall off duty. Notably, endpoint firewall off duty went down to a log retaining team. So a little curious if Hal really values the firewall. Let's go ahead and kick this off. Default account alive. Charity, tell us a little bit about the matchup and who you think is going to take it in the first half.
So for default accounts, right? So it's just making it way too easy for the attacker to gain access. So this is very basic hygiene, right? A lot of times I know even the most basic steps are overlooked. So it's important to call this out, and that it's IG1. I said I was biased. It's too easy to predict, default credentials. So this should be a standard procedure in the build checklist. From an audit perspective, this is really caught a lot and indicates an immature IT provisioning process. So I've seen those build checklists be reviewed in audits. So it drives home the need for that documentation and that you're following a standard operating procedure there.
Let's dive a little bit more into that. And correct me if I'm wrong, your governance background and operations is from the banking space. Is that correct? Yep.
Right.
So tell us a little bit about how often are these onboarding procedures and documentation, stuff like this, actually reviewed and updated? Is this a common practice, or they're lucky to even have any in place?
Are you asking how often it is or how often it should be?
Let's get the real answer from the field.
Okay. So honestly, I've been in multiple different banks at different stages in their maturity, right? To there's no build checklist whatsoever, and it's just whomever is handling this process by memory, and we hope that it's rinse and repeat to a larger team that really is expected to have something documented, and a team or at least a supervisor checking to make sure that it happens, or a charity that comes in as IT governance to make sure that the process actually has teeth and guardrails around it. So yeah, I've definitely seen auditors come in and ask for that, right? I mean, they want proof, they want evidence that this is being done. And if you don't have a checklist, I mean, kind of like I say about disaster recovery, if it's not tested, it doesn't exist. So, if you don't have something that is validating what your process is and that you're doing it, an auditor is going to pick up on that because it's inconsistent. And then it does point at immaturity, and you can be written up for that. I mean, sometimes it's as easy as just like, hey, a little nudge, like, for your size and maturity, you really should have this, versus next time we come in, this is an MRA.
You're saying written up. That sounds like accountability. Hand over to Phyllis. Is there more accountability coming to that cybersecurity world? Is that fair to say?
I think so. And, I'm going to point the finger at Dustin a little bit. I think cybersecurity insurance is, helping a little bit with that uplift. Of course, we have those regulatory frameworks. However, we all know, sometimes the regulatory framework does not always equal security, right? But people don't want to get written up, and there is some accountability more and more, which I think is a good thing, quite honestly. I too, I'm going to vote for the default accounts.
Okay. Upset.
I think when you look at it, in 2023, there was that big attack against Unitronics. I don't know if y'all remember, against, I think it was like water or some utility, where the default password was like 1111, and then CISA got involved, and they're like, oh, we have to get rid of default passwords. They put out this big warning, like, which we all knew we should have done. But I think it just goes to show you that you can have a major attack on critical infrastructure still. You would think something like that would be basic, that someone working in critical infrastructure would take care of, but obviously not. So
going towards Kelvin's train of thought with last matchup, if the server firewall, let's just put this matchup head to head. If the server firewall is on and fully configured working, default accounts are still going to be bypassing that firewall anyway. So
100%. So it's 100% of default accounts. Also, I this is one of my pet peeves, because why do we still have that default accounts these days? Like, vendors should know better. Vendors that are creating software have a almost parental obligation to not allow people to do this anymore. You should not have a default account active. It should always be a custom-made account. The moment you install the software, like, hey, make a username and password, something like that. It's one of my biggest pet peeves, and I'm fairly sure that this will win, because no matter what happens, like even if the firewall is completely configured, the default account is still going to get you in somewhere. There's always going to be a service that is exposed.
Well, you guys are in the country that has that actually has a law that forbids default accounts on IoT devices. So
Wow, on
Yeah,
IoT,
I know
really?
an MSP that
Yes.
just popped. They reinstalled something and left the factory default account on the software, and that was how the attackers got in. Like, it's a pretty brutal situation.
Let's get that first half score while we keep talking about this. And Calvin, I liked how, and you guys are all spot on. We're seeing an upset in the works, actually a pretty major one.
How's about
But I liked what I liked what Calvin said. Kind of like a parental responsibility, more so supply chain responsibility. That's the big hot topic today with CMMC and everything. So we're really going to be surprised if Firewall makes a comeback. But I guess Dustin, on the insurance side, I feel like it's easier to check if the firewall is on than it is to see if default accounts are existing. So what's that insurance take on this?
So maybe the issue on the insurance side is whenever you sit there and you say to an underwriter, the server firewall, they're going to go, well, is that a Sonic wall or a FortiGate? This is such a more 2 layers deeper than almost anybody at insurance understands. That because part of whenever you're underwriting, you have to have 2 things: is can you trust the answers you're getting? So the more specific and detailed and complex you get, people just don't know, legitimately. I've looked at insurance applications where I'm like, there's no way you're doing any of this. We sit down, we talk to them, and 80% of it they're not doing. We had one the other day where we work with a third-party certification company called Spectra. We had an application come in. They didn't have MFA turned on. And I was like, that's really weird. Went back to Spectra, got the certification report, and it's like, no, it's on. We go back to the client. They're like, oh, I didn't know what that meant. So I checked no. I'm like, guys, that's so they actually, the opposite happened, right? They were being conservative, that kind of thing. So server firewalls that's not a question we can ask. It's not reliable. There's going to be different definitions. Yes, it's on, but I excluded the entire local subnet. Like, it's just not a reasonable underwriting question for multiple reasons.
Wow. Yeah, you got to have educated people filling out their own forms, huh? That's a big ask.
Yep.
All right, let's see if the upset holds in this final score. And it looks like we are going to have the upset hold. Servers are off the board. Yep, and it does look like a pretty massive comeback. It was a 14-point spread down to 8, so it was a comeback, but default accounts hold.
I'm really interested. Lawrence needs to do a breakdown on some of these and tell us why.
I know. As the series goes on, I feel like we're going to have more and more confusion about these technical CMMC controls because Al has that heavy biasy. But let's kick into the next game. I think this is one I've been excited for. Been talking about it all week. BitLocker or bust versus antivirus just missing entirely. Is Hal going to care more about having the drive encrypted if there's any theft, or just AV not there at all, exposing it to the world? I think
I want to start this one.
Okay, Dustin, you take it.
Well, just because, so talking from the insurance standpoint, BitLocker is awesome because at that point, one of the things in insurance is if a breach happens, we have to prove that data did not get leaked, right? So SIM is awesome. We talked last week. Logging is great because we can say they did X, Y, and Z. So BitLocker is amazing because we go, oh, we have the logs, BitLocker was on. We are washing our hands of this because even though those 10 laptops got stolen, there's no way they can get into it. So that side of it, big fan of endpoint encryption.
So the physical security there, insurance weights pretty highly.
Yeah.
Looking at it from the technical side, like there's no more devices without AV. Like even if you remove on the current device, a recent device, a Windows 11 device, even if you remove the AV that's installed, you're still protected by Windows Defender. You still get observability. You still get logging. It's just less effective. You'll have to make more effort to do it. So it's never completely missing in action. So I'd say BitLocker would be a bigger worry, especially on mobile devices, stuff that you can lose.
So in that explanation there, and antivirus missing, I'm inclined to think Hal probably considered Defender as part of that missing. But from the technical side, you're saying even if Defender was disabled, there's no third-party AV or EDR, there is some type of Microsoft by
You still
default,
get
by
some
force.
base layer of protection. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
What if
I
you
didn't.
have
That's
a
actually
really
news to me. I did not know that.
That turns Defender off and breaks it.
We know these MSPs, and if you broke Defender, then you shouldn't be calling yourself an MSP.
All right, fair enough.
All right, let's get this first half score pulled up, and let's go to Phyllis here. Are we surprised actually to see antivirus missing being more important? So a little bit of a hotter take from Hal against the panel so far.
I mean, I'm kind of not surprised, quite honestly. I think people still believe that having, malware defenses like AV are high on the priority list. I know that whenever people come to me, they really just want that kind of, it's going to detect malware. It's going to protect me from all these things. And so I'm not surprised that AV won, and I think it's going to win. So I'm going to stick with AV.
All right. All right. I like it.
I think that people, I think that there's strong belief that that's the way to go.
And I like the comment, is it a challenge to break Defender? Microsoft might challenge itself to do that one of these days with an update, but I can't say that live on air. All right, Charity, going into this final take here from the leaning into compliance. Obviously, we just talked about BitLocker from the physical, but the compliance side takes Riz into account, and I'm not sure that there's BitLocker breaches scrolling through Reddit, so I'm a little bit on Phyllis's side personally, but what do you got?
Yeah, at first glance, I was like on the fence because, it's hard enough to get an asset inventory, but then if you don't have encryption on what you don't know that you had, you can't protect the device anyways, right? So it goes back to the importance of asset inventory. So I really lean heavily on that. But, thinking through it and hearing everybody else, I mean, I would probably go with antivirus as well. I mean, this should really be part of your AV policy and be a standard build, right? Back to what I said before, your auditors are likely going to ask for a sample of your endpoints and spot check those inconsistencies in the deployment process. So I'm going to go AV as well.
All right. Any pushback from the Dustin and Calvin? Yeah.
I was going to say, Charity or Phyllis, which of these is IG1 or IG2? Or are they both IG1?
They're both IG1.
Okay.
Is Control 3.6, is that IG1? Yeah, because Control 3 has like 14 subcontrols, doesn't it? Yeah. Has a bunch. All right, both IG1, and we're pulling up that final score, and Hal is going to hold to the expected winner, the 2 seed of antivirus missing. Calvin, are you upset with Hal here?
Not upset. I'm surprised it measured AV so heavily, but maybe the bot's just broken. We'll have to ask Lawrence.
We're going to have a couple more beers and figure out how to break Defender tonight.
Yeah.
Tune in to the post-game follow-up, Breaking Defender in real time with beer.
Let us know.
All right, let's kick into the next matchup. We got segmentation absent, which I will give the full disclaimer, massive in CMMC for those who don't know, is to segment, make sure you only have what you need in scope. But we're going against an MFA control. So a little scary here because MFA I know is huge in insurance audits. It's easy to check for if it's at least enabled. Obviously, there's a lot more to it than that. But let's go to Charity first with a governance in her background.
Yeah, I segmentation all the way. This is dangerous from a security perspective with attacker, lateral movement. And there are isolation controls in place for a reason. We had a fairly minor impact incident in my previous role in banking because of segmentation architecture. And it really came down to, well, if we had only approved that when we had an infrastructure change, we could have prevented this. And this will bite you in regulated industries, as you just mentioned, right? Financial services, healthcare, as well. And it can be a significant finding. So your documentation and one of my favorite things, change control processes, will really come into play here. So that's my choice.
All right, leaning towards segmentation in that first half. It sounded powerful enough to take that all the way. Kelvin, Dustin, what are you feeling here?
This is a hard one.
Toss up.
I mean, looking at privileged only MFA, let's look at Striker. Big example right now.
Yep.
Example right now, standard user account first, then an admin account because they got in using a standard user account. Big thing.
Is that the post-mortem? I thought the initial was a global admin. Was it a user first?
I believe they said they escalated from a standard user account to an admin account by whatever means.
I don't think it was a global admin. It was somebody. It was like a mobile device.
Yeah, mobile device manager or something like that. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's a whole webinar to talk about Striker.
They worked with what they had. So, but segmentation being absent is equally as worse because I mean, if you have correct segmentation, it won't have as much impact on the entire environment. So this is like, I think I'd lean slightly towards segmentation. Also because Dustin told me that before there was an MFA question, it leaned for logging instead. So I'm doing that now too.
Yep, okay. I'm gonna go with the theme last week was the head and the heart being separate. My heart's in privileged only MFA. Because the other thing too is like a lot of companies that we run into on the insurance side are it's 20 dudes with laptops and some SaaS applications. There's not, and on the insurance side, I absolutely love insuring those companies. Legacy networks are a pain. But my head, if I'm a betting man, which I am, I'm going for segmentation just because the AI has shown it loves the CMMC heavy. And I seem to remember that was pretty substantial. I think this one was a blowout, whoever segmentation went against last week or the week before.
Segmentation did have a big win in the first round. And I like how you talk about those startups with some AI wrapper SaaS applications. Those are the ones you prefer on what they're running on?
Dude, versus having a firewall sitting there and who knows what on devices on the network. Yeah, I'd rather write insurance policies for 20-person work from home businesses all day, every day.
Wow. All right, let's get this first half score and let's see if Phyllis agrees. It's a close one. Segmentation is leaning, but this is upset territory. Phyllis, where are you going?
I mean, it's hard, segmentation or MFA, but I'm going to have to be contrary with the group and go with MFA.
Ooh, upset coming. We already had.
Me too. I just don't trust the bot.
We had one seed go down, and Phyllis is predicting a second one.
I mean, I think we read the news, we see it. It's MFA all the way. I agree with Dustin on the insurance. I just got off a call with insurers. It was talking about MFA all the way as well. I mean that's a go no go. MFA is a go no go for who I was talking to.
Even then, looking at like all the current attacks, we're seeing so much more token theft, and just MFA is no longer enough. I mean, you need phishing resistant MFAs, so then segmentation becomes more important again because like if things are segmented, you can steal the identity, but it won't have as much effect on everyone else.
So that was my exact next comment. If we're talking about Striker, if that admin was compromised, if things were segmented, could that have been a little bit less of a scenario?
I do have a question though, and I'll have to lean on you guys. How prevalent is MFA being deployed right now?
Extremely low.
Way lower than it should be.
Right.
I'll tell you. So I got into cyber insurance like 2021, 22. It has been a huge improvement though. Versus like whenever I first started, I would say about 20% of applications said, yes, we have it fully enabled. Now it's about 20% that say it's not fully enabled, but whenever they say, fully is we got a couple people, and of course it ends up being like the CFO won't let me turn it on. It's the high value people, but it's still not where it should be, but it's way better than it used to be.
Microsoft's identity team released a report on MFA being enabled for admins, and that went up extremely, like from low 5-6% to like 80-ish. But that's also because now they enforce MFA for admins using portals. So
why is it only 80 then?
because you can still create an admin, never log in. It doesn't have MFA. Yeah. Which is also, by the way, dangerous because then the attacker will just log in and set up MFA for you.
Set up MFA. If you have an account, please sign in before not signing in ever again.
Technically, it's MFA protected.
Yeah, but I think like users are still in the low 30%, like worldwide, enterprises everywhere, which is absolutely insane.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
We actually had 2 MFA teams make the bracket this year, so this is obviously privilege only, but we do have MFA at the user level as well. So 2 separate teams made this bracket. But let's see. I think we're kind of split, leaning towards segmentation. Got Phyllis going hot with the upset. What will Hal say in that final score for the CMMC biasy? Segmentation.
I won my first one.
Calvin's bracket just went crazy.
I want to be in London with the beers too. Like,
we'll get a pint with Kelvin and Dustin.
Best I can do from New Orleans is send beads.
Yeah, that was, I think Austin said about, I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed.
Phyllis, after seeing Hal's conclusion here, I know you don't have the CMMC biasy, very security purist side, but a little shocked by the upset. I'm sorry, by the 1 seed holding, or where's your mind at after seeing this?
I mean, I understand that. I was on the fence about, which one, I think I voted for MFA because I really think that at the very least, organizations should be implementing it, and it should be like just like your minimum baseline. I'm heartened by the fact that Dustin and Kelvin said that the numbers are going up. So, for me, it's like, let's just get to the basics and let's do the basics right. I feel like segmentation is more advanced, which is fine. And I think it does prevent a lot of things. And so what I'm rooting for is like, at least get your MFA in there.
All right. I like it. Let's hop into this next game.
Is segmentation an IG2 control? Or is that IG1 still?
It's IG2.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, that's a good call out too. If it's IG2, that just for the audience, actually, why would I introduce IG2? Charity or Phyllis, help really quick. What is the implementation groups of CIS?
Yeah, so IG1 is going to be your essential cyber hygiene. It's the first 56. This is where we tell any organization of any size to start with. We put a lot of work into, thinking through, how many resources you have to get this done. I mean, we really do feel strongly that you should start at IG1, IG2, and IG3 build upon each other, right? So once you've completed IG1 and you move into IG2, that's going to be an additional 70-something safeguards. And you're moving through maturity, more advanced attacks, more sensitive data, better resources to be able to combat those. So that's where segmentation lies. I think Phyllis said that as well. It is a little bit more advanced than IG1, so that does make sense. And then IG3, we are expecting, your most complex IT environments, biggest attack threats and surfaces to be covered by IG3. And that's going to be the top of the maturity as well. Think of implementation groups as your implementation roadmap, right? You really do follow one group, go to the next, and then at IG3, you are just doing great.
Yep. That's awesome to hear. And I'm blanking on the name. I haven't opened it in a while, but you guys do have the very popular, I used to reference it all the time. It's been a while, but mapping to MITRE. And I think if you just do IG1, what's it called again? Remind me.
The community defense model.
Community defense model. Yep.
Right. And what we did was we used MITRE ATT&CK as the framework to create attack patterns of the top 5 attack types. And then we mapped our safeguards to mitigations, to MITRE mitigations, to those attack techniques and sub-techniques as mitigations to those. And so then we could show that an organization that implements implementation group 1 can defend against like top threats. And of course that that will span across other threats as well, because obviously these attack techniques are used across multiples of attacks, not just like the top 5, which are like web application hacking, system intrusion, and we pulled out ransomware and things like that.
And the number one mitigation in that mapping is CIS benchmark secure configurations. Just had to say.
Let's go. Once you know your assets, you should set them up for success
That's
with
right.
settings. All right, let's kick back into the game after that halftime educational session on CIS. We got exploit protection is off versus dormant accounts enabled. So we already talked about those default accounts. Now we're talking about the employee hasn't been there in a handful of years, but still has an account. Let's do Phyllis first. Where are we leaning on this one?
It's a good question. I do kind of favor more of the easier kind of like dormant accounts thing. Although, I don't know. I do like exploit protection. Go ahead.
So just because it's dormant, that may not mean it's not inheriting the security policy.
Yeah, that's true. True. I'm going to have to go with dormant accounts.
Okay.
I feel like
right.
it does happen often, and so you hear about it. And was that like one of the major Microsoft, like the Exchange hack? Was it a dormant account, or was it like a dormant machine?
It was a test account they provisioned, right?
Yeah.
So
lots of not test account permissions.
Exactly. An overprivileged test account.
I'm going to go with dormant accounts.
We don't want to test in production, so we're going to open a test account in production.
Yeah. I put test right in the username.
Oh, this is
funny. All right, Kelvin and Dustin, how we got an upset prediction from Phyllis. We feeling on agreeing, or is the 5 seed gonna or 4 seed gonna hold?
I seem to remember that the IA category for CMMC was heavily weighted. I'm getting into advanced analytics now. So I'm leaning towards around dormant accounts. So again, it's auditable, it's trackable, it's change control, it's checking all those boxes. But again, that I always go back to the fundamentals, right? Phyllis leaves the company, we disable her account, that kind of thing. The exploit protection, it's going to stop Office macros, stuff like that. But the dormant accounts end up being the big attacks. Let's put it that way, right? It's not a little drive-by Office macro.
You are forgetting one thing. Hell is crazy.
I think it's going that direction. You can audit the accounts. You can change control for the accounts.
Crazy. But yeah, I agree with Dustin. Dormant accounts. Also because insider threat, all these kind of things, like users that left on terms they might not agree with, these kind of things will become a major issue over time. So yeah, dormant accounts for sure.
So quick segue on that note, people leaving on bad terms. One of my big bones to pick around SOC 2 and SOCs is you can kind of set your own thing and the auditor thumbs up. This was 15 years ago. My first MSP, we had a client, 72-hour offboarding window for IT from whenever HR tells us. They had one guy, they fired him as they're walking out in the lobby. He goes and points and he's like, I'm going to come back here and shoot every one of you, whatever.
Gosh.
HR didn't tell us about it for like 24 hours. That account was sitting there. And whenever the lady comes in, the craziest thing happened yesterday. Let me tell you, we passed the next audit period with flying colors because like, oh yeah, we terminated that dude within 24 hours rather than immediately. So yeah.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah, rogue employees are a real thing, or ex-employees too.
Yeah. All right, let's get this first half score and see if the upset is all right. We got exploit keeping. That's not impossible, but Charity, some governance side, I feel like dormant accounts probably falls straight up in your lane with some reviews and whatnot. Do we think dormant accounts is going to pull back like others think, or is exploit going to hold?
I have too many stories to tell you guys about dormant. Okay. So I picked one. Okay. So this is an audit nightmare and something that is really preventable, right? That's really lacking process governance in your identity and access management program. So fun story, around 10-ish years ago, I was in one of my first governance process assessments. I was really trying to stand up the program, right? And it was around employee onboarding. So remember, I was governance of all of IT. It wasn't specific to cybersecurity. And I wasn't an auditor, but really first line of defense, looking at process controls and potential audit findings, right, to be proactive. And so one of the newly hired associates was actually a former associate from around a year prior. And when this person came back on board, several of their accounts were still active, including their physical security badge that let them into an IT locked floor with sensitive processing and data handling like wire transfers and ACH. So needless to say, this was a huge win for the CIO when I told him that we needed my department IT governance. So I called it a steal me sticker for attackers. And interesting enough, this is sometimes overlooked by auditors, and it's so preventable if you follow your process. It's very important to review it frequently enough, right, to ensure that the user lifecycle is being accounted for, and it's cross-functional with HR too. But yeah, it was kind of a wild ride with that one.
So Charity, question. Did the employee come back and say, "Wow, you guys really improved your onboarding process since they left"? I've never seen it go this fast.
This person brought it to my attention, so
wow.
It couldn't have been set up better, right? If I'm trying to justify a pilot, governance process assessment, I'm like, okay, case endpoint, we need it.
Oh my gosh, dormant accounts making jobs real and budget available. But let's see if they're a second half team like the audience thinks. Let's pull up the final score. Ooh, they must have stayed out a little too late last night, or Hal is just chaos. I think the panel might be a little upset by this. Is there any reasonable explanation here, or just CMMC values the exploit protection a little bit too much?
Hal's crazy.
No.
Hal's crazy?
Hal was out drinking too much last night.
We need Lawrence in here to explain a couple of these, because I'm still a little nervous about that 1 seed going down in that first game. That's a little questionable. All right, let's kick into the next game. This game, I know we've talked a lot about logging, and a DNS team did win earlier, but yet we got MFA. And this is just missing entirely, not even just on the privilege account. So I think this one, let's kick in that first half score out of the way. This game's already wrapping up a little bit, but any hot takes on if, as we get the first half score pulled up?
MFA should win, and if it's not, then there's something wrong with Hal.
Agreed.
The rules are made up and the points don't matter.
Yeah.
All right, let's get that first half score and see if Hal has any legitimacy. Otherwise, he's losing it.
Hal is redeeming himself a little bit here.
Okay.
And let's just jump as the panel is universally aligned. Keep some momentum. It's a blowout.
All right.
Good job, Hal.
Kelvin's bracket is looking better again. All right, big blowout. MFA winning. DNS logging isn't even sure how they got here, and I think this might be the first game that broke into 90. So quite the spread. All right, let's keep this moving to the next game for maybe a little bit. Oh, Charity, you're going to kick this one off. We just talked about change control a little bit. You mentioned earlier, and from my experience servicing the CMMC market, change control couldn't be more important. So very interesting if Hal is going to follow to the things I'm hearing versus logs not retained, which was in fact the only 15 seed to upset a 2 seed. This team took out Endpoint Firewall off, a legendary comeback in the second half. It was unreal. The crowd was wild that night. But Charity, change control versus logs not retained. How we feeling?
I mean, I am not concerned about Hal on this one. Okay, he's gonna like logs, and I am going to go the opposite direction. It's probably, and I'm not going to bore you guys with all of my ITIL nerdiness. Change control process is very, very important in the IT infrastructure library. Anyways, change control bypass all day long is a problem. In running IT incident management for a decade, I got to see how important change management really is in practice, especially in a highly regulated shop like banking, right? So we had so many IT and operations incidents due to mismanaged or bypassed changes. So many that I had the team add a data field to flag it. and an entirely different remediation process since they fully bypassed the governance process around changes to production. So this is where testing changes and having a true backout plan are critical in the success of the change. The structure of having normal changes versus incident fixes versus projects that really require up and downstream dependencies for the change. It's so much. And I know I'm very biased on this one, but it's an audit nightmare. It's a governance nightmare, and it violates best practices. And I stand on that. So it's my clear choice.
All right, going with your heart, even though you hinted a little bit, Hal might go the other way. Someone who knows a thing or two about going with their heart is Dustin in the panel. Where's your heart and Hal leaning in this mindset for the game?
I think around change control is going to be another thing where Hal loves audits and logs and all that. So I think there's enough there. The heart and the head are both under change control bypass. I think this should be a pretty good blowout.
Well, without logs being retained, there is no change control logs. A little bit to Kelvin talking about the matchup specifically. Kelvin, you think Dustin or Charity's feeling this one right?
I'm like split right in the middle, because the reality is that everyone ships it first and secures it never.
And that's a really incredible line. You just come up with that one?
Yeah, that's good, right?
No, feel like I'm in a
really
Hobby Lobby
right
reading signs.
It could go either way. Both are. If anything, I think it would worry more about logs again, because HAL is all about observability, CMCC. It's super important to it. So HAL will probably go there. I'd stay on change control.
Okay. Let's get this first half score pulled up and see who took it. Change control has a narrow lead. So Calvin saying it's head to head was pretty spot on. So Phyllis, we got change control and logs not retained. Will there be an upset here?
I mean, I'm surprised. I felt like Hal was going to go logs not retained.
Okay. So you're seeing an upset. I mean, it's still possible. It's only a 4-point margin.
Yeah, I mean, if the group talks about how Hal loves logs, I feel like it's going to be logs not retained. Okay.
Well, obviously we have a Hal biasy. Any Phyllis thought here on why logs might be taking it?
I mean, I do think it is important to have your logs, right? So you need that trail to understand what happened. And also, the logs are what trigger alerts, right? And so while it may not be retained, I think it's important, to have those to go back and say, okay, what really happened when you do get an alert. So I could see the value. I mean, obviously, I think everyone on the panel sees the value of logs, but I think that's why logs not retained will be picked.
All right. I think everyone had their heart in change control. Change control kept it the first half. Where are we at with the final score here? It was an upset. Logs took it.
Yes.
There you go, Phyllis and Charity. Dustin and Kelvin tried to play the Hal and went with their heart instead. And we had logs keeping the win. So a 15 seed is moving on to the Sweet 16. Holy moly. Did not think I'd see it. All right, let's kick into the next matchup. We got, we just talked about DLP earlier. So DLP Shortage going against Cypher Sweet Circus. Heads up for those who maybe missed the Cypher Sweet's first game. They were losing in the first half, if memory serves correct. And Lawrence said from CMMC, the encryption is pretty powerful. So how are we feeling? Are we going to see another, I think DLP is a 1 seed? Yep. Are we going to see another 1 seed go down, or is DLP going to hold the win? Let's kick off with Phyllis.
I watched this part of the last week's episode. I was really surprised that Cypher Sweet Circus won. I didn't realize how important it was in CMMC and how CMMC is really calling out the algorithms and perhaps like the versions of the algorithms, which I'm not opposed to. I of course feel more strongly about DLP. Security wise, I mean, I understand. I mean, obviously I'm former NSA. I understand the importance of the algorithm and using, the latest and greatest. And I was always encouraged that, and a lot of things are deprecated. And and so on and so forth. I mean, we can go on about that, but I think that DLP is very important, and that's security-wise. That's where I'm going to go with the DLP.
Yeah, Rainbow Tables was pretty recent. Not sure if there's going to be any Riz behind that, but we got so DLP going with you, Phyllis. Charity, are you in agreement, or is Cypher Suite going to be taking an upset?
I'm in full agreement with DLP. Yep.
Okay. Let's get this first half score and see where we're at, and then toss it to Dustin and Calvin from London calling in. We do have an upset possible, but that 1 seed did come in strong. Will the 1 seed come back in the second half?
I think the Cypher Suite's going to win. And I got a good hot take. Actually, we talked about this. I think it was in the first one. Nobody knows what they're doing on either of these.
Oh yeah, we did talk about
Nobody
that.
has DLP configured correctly. Nobody has their ciphers. I don't want to say it doesn't matter, but with the way most people are doing it, like I don't. Who was it? Zach.
Eric Wells.
Somebody on here was like, I've looked at DLP. I've seen it implemented properly once.
Yep.
Right.
I think Cypher Suite's going to take it, mostly because no one knows how it's configured, but also there's a lot of standards that recommended bad configuration in the past. Look at FIPS. They actually recommend that downgrading encryption because it was a trusted platform instead of a so there were a lot of mistakes made in the past.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing Cypher Suite's going to win this because of
because of
past mistakes. Yeah.
Because of FIPS.
And is DLP an IG2 again with 3.13 as the control mapping?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's IG2. Let me check real quick.
You have all the PDFs downloaded on your desktop.
It's IG3. DLP is IG3.
Oh,
because it is hard to implement.
Right.
It is hard.
That actually very much backs what Eric Wells from Kraft Kennedy was telling us last week.
Yeah, that was who it was.
Yep. So let's see.
They walked into one client ever that had DLP like remotely configured, right?
And even then, it probably wasn't perfect. But let's see if Hal is going to have the 1 seed take it, or if we're going to be.
Wow.
Actually, looks like Cypher Suite fell asleep in the second half. Oh my.
My bracket's looking so good.
It is.
This is huge. All right. I think DLP took it. I think that's what our hearts wanted, and that's where it went. So, all right, we're coming down, I think, to our final 5 matchups. This was a fan favorite from the first episode. We have DMark Never Met Her against Attachment Types Anything Goes. Let's kick off with Kelvin and Dustin here. I know you might know a thing or two about DMark. Kelvin over there.
We talked about DMark over beers like 2 hours ago.
Yeah.
I want the full beer summary.
Attachment types are going to win.
Yep, that was it was the same conversation we had. I think it was last week, Zach, where it's everybody's 2 most important things to most businesses: phones, email.
Yeah. Right.
So DMark, they're going to turn down, they're going to disable, they're going to. It's a great idea. It's a real world, not great idea. Right. So I think the attachment, block EXEs, block, zip files, stuff like that. I think attachment filtering all day, every day.
Yeah.
I think this week we've had the more upsets than any other week. So if there's any Hal biasy in the rest of the panel, I don't know if we're having a leaning Riz week to the lower seeds. But Phyllis, how are we feeling about this matchup?
I'll have to go with the attachment as well. It's easier to implement, but it's also pretty easy to bypass, right? When I used to work at the agency, we couldn't get zip files and all those. And at the time, those things were pretty weak. So it's like, just put ZZZ at the end, or just put AAA at the end so I can actually work. But I agree with the logic. So we'll go with attachment types.
The horror stories from the field. And let's get this first half score pulled up. We are seeing DMark holding the first half from the security point of view. Charity, is there a surprise here with the 5 seed taking an upset path? Is Attachment Anything Goes going to come back in the second?
I really am surprised about that, for sure. I was going to have attachment types for sure be my choice, especially with rules never being configured and following those standard processes. I think attachment types may pull the upset.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Anyone want to circle back on their guesses here to go back to D-Mark, who has the lead from the compliance point of view, or are we holding strong with attachment types? Anything goes.
I'm holding firm.
Yeah.
Attachment
Holding
types.
firm. Let's get this matchup final score. The email is taking it, and it looks like it even pulled away a little bit further.
Nice.
Man, we need to know that CMMC perspective in that Hal biasy.
If D-Mark wins, I'm never watching this again.
Oh, dude, don't say that. I'm not even going to put him in the tournament next year. We need these viewers. All right. And then we have this next matchup here has my personal fan favorite, and everyone has them talking about the 14 seed making it to the round of 32, Windows 7 Walking Dead, going against Least Privilege Ignored, which, giving Lawrence a little bit of a shout here, he talked about being very difficult to do in production for the majority of businesses. So we have a pretty hard to implement control versus something that seems as easy as updating the OS. Let's go to Charity first. How are we feeling about this matchup?
I mean, I'm biased for Control 4.1, but least privilege is a hot topic in an audit for sure.
You hate to see this matchup go head to head. You love them both.
I do. You are exactly right. I do love them both. But for the efforts of the game today, I'm gonna go least privilege. I just feel like that's blatant disregard.
Yeah.
Okay. I heard Calvin go, yeah, there. You wanna double down on that, or are you gonna switch sides?
Armac over here.
100% least privilege. Like that is the one that should win. If Hal favors Windows 7, it doesn't understand current technology because Windows 7 doesn't exist anymore.
Sure.
Anywhere.
I mean, it is The Walking Dead.
No MSP in the entire world has Windows 7 installed anymore.
Is this a hot take, or are you having too many beers before the episode, brother?
No, I've had too many beers before the episode, for sure. No, least privilege should win.
All right, Dustin and Phyllis, either one of you guys, I'm curious, and it looks like Windows 7 is taking the first half. Is this an automatic, like, not ensure or automatic compliance audit fail if they see Windows 7 in the environment? I mean, is this a thing that they're looking for?
Yeah, 100%.
It looks like from the audience, we have a Windows 7 in the home right now, potentially watching this episode. So be careful with what you're saying. I need to
call
keep
is
these
coming from
viewers.
inside the house.
All right,
But
sorry,
yeah, no,
Dustin.
insurance side, absolutely looking for out-of-date assets. More important though is out-of-date assets, internet facing, right, exposed to the internet. So that was, I was pretty wrong if I remember right. That was my argument last time on the Windows 7 Walking Dead.
You're
So I'm
saying some
still,
of those manufacturing computers that are still Win 7 that's segmented off from the internet. That's it's
or I
reality.
need to remote in from home, and MSP is just like, yeah, RDP, great, throw it on the internet, that's fine. So I'm stubborn though, so I'm gonna stick with least privilege on this one.
Okay, think the 6 feed's gonna hold, or rather come back.
Come back.
I'm a little bit concerned for that comment you just made. RDP open to the internet.
Yeah, put it on 3390. It's fine.
And Phyllis, from what you've seen from the compliance side, would this be an automatic, SOC 2 failure, or any point of view on that if Windows 7 is still in the environment in production?
I can't say I would know if it's an automatic SOC 2 failure. My guess would be
big red flag.
Yeah, that would be a red. I have a funny story when I worked at the agency. Now, this is very, very, very many years ago. I was doing security automation and talking about, we need to do this and that, convincing someone from a sister agency. And I pull up the conference room hadn't been used. I pull up the operating, I pull up the screen, and it boots up, and it's like Windows 98, right? So here I'm like, oh, security, we need the late, patching, and then he's like, excuse me, but I want to point out you're using Windows 98, and I'm like, I'm not in control of this conference room. I'm just booting up the machine. It was
conference room is out of scope.
Yeah. Now, did you give a time frame to that? What year was that story, Phyllis?
I mean, that was definitely like probably in the 2015.
Okay, it's in the teens. A little scary still, but it's not the 2020s.
No, 2015 probably. Yeah. So, know where your assets are. I'm sure that was a machine in a conference room that no one knew about. However, I'm still going to vote for least privilege because I think that's the better one.
All
I
right.
think that's the one I would prefer.
A decade ago, Windows 98 would have had its own team, but Hal did agree that Windows 98 is officially dead. Hope fingers crossed. But with Windows 7 being the Walking Dead, do they hold the upset? Let's find out. They do. They even widen the margins. So if you have that out of date machine running in production, that is a huge Hal red flag.
Wasn't it last week that we were, I don't remember who it was. Somebody was saying, though, that they always found the most insecure computer at the company is not the CFO or the CEO, it's the conference room.
Yeah, it was me. So from looking at a baseline perspective, typically the least secure baseline in any environment that we harden is going to be the conference computer or that office computer that's, machine and activity timeout is 0 because it's running the slideshow. You think they would just make the one setting exception, but from what I see, it is the most exception-based computer and rarely documented.
That's funny.
Yeah, that's probably my most fun tough question, if you will, because that is definitely something I don't think a lot of people realize. Because all the reading, all the case studies say it's always the CFO, it's always the CEO. But I promise you, from what I've seen, it is the conference box. So, all right, let's kick into the next matchup. We have another URL filter missing versus the good old anonymous access. All you can eat. Every log is unknown. So let's kick off with Dustin here. What do you got on this hot take?
I'm looking at this gentleman here. How do you feel about anonymous access?
It's impossible to have anonymous access, right?
I am too sober for this because anonymous access is one of those horrifying things. Everyone accessing everything.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it'll lean to that too because of again, observability, logging, all of these things.
You lose it all.
You lose it all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm gonna go anonymous access also.
All right, and remember that first half, that first half is from the security point of view. So let's get this first half score up, and then okay, we got a little bit of a blowout underway. So Charity, the first half is based off security. Is there going to be a second half compliance comeback like Dustin was hinting at? If everything's anonymous, there is no logs.
I was gonna pick URL and just admit defeat if I lost, but yeah, no, I just from experience, it even says it here, web filtering policies never deployed. I mean, you're violating directly your IT governance processes. So, I mean, from an audit perspective, I would definitely pick that one.
All right, Phyllis, any takes here you want to share?
I mean, I was gonna go with anonymous access all you can eat after I saw last week's debate.
Does a 12-point spread intimidate you, or can they still come back from this?
I think they can still come back. I'm gonna go with the anonymous.
Okay. After seeing that first half score, you London guys, we feel like anonymous access is going to come back, or you keeping true on the URL filter?
It should, but I'm not really on my game today, so should probably be betting against myself.
Might have been the pub before today's episode. I don't know if you've had a London pub before the other weeks, but let's see if we have the largest comeback yet, and we do. It is actually kind of a blowout. Oh my gosh!
Wow.
Is that a 58-point half? That is an insane spread. All right, so the 2 seed holds. URL filter is out of the bracket.
It's all getting more sane again.
Well, let's not say that yet. We got another 1 seed coming up, and it's another baseline 1 seed coming up here. We got network baseline now missing versus another logging control. We know how Hal feels about logging. So let's go ahead. I always like Dustin's take first here because he has the Hal bias he just figured out. Let's see where you think this is going to go.
I mean, we got a lot of CIS folks on the call. The baseline all day, every day. But I feel like on the URL logging, I think we're going to see first half network baseline, and then Hal brings us back to URL logging in the end.
Ooh, got a first and second half.
Like you don't control every single network. The edge is no longer that important. People are working more from home. People are working more from Starbucks. Is the network baseline missing worse than logging that could be on your endpoint?
If the network is there and there's important assets on it, you still got to defend the core, so to speak.
Yeah.
So I guess that's a good point. Again, if we go back to my favorite example of 20 dudes with laptops, then yeah, you are all logging all day, every day. But I feel like, Zach, this has been a little bit biased towards kind of more, I don't mean legacy in a bad way, but a lot of the stuff has been, servers on a network, on a segregated network, if we're lucky, kind of thing. So I'm going to stick to my guns on this one.
It'll be
You're
interesting
not wrong, but context-wise.
Yeah. Network
It'll be interesting to see about how the parameters of HAL might get updated in next year's tournament based on the feedback and some of these outcomes. So very excited to see how this tournament evolves every year. Phyllis, let's give it to you. Are we going to see another baseline team going out as a 1 seed, or are they going to hold that 1 seed strong?
I mean, I think Kelvin brings up a good point. He made me think a little bit, but I'm still going to go with network baseline.
All right.
Even like, you could say your CSPs, networking, what they're helping provide, your networking baseline, your firewalling and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to stick with network baseline.
All right, let's get the first half score pulled up and see if Dustin's first half prediction of network on top is indeed correct. So Charity, is there a chance that Dustin is going to get both halves right to say network in the first and logging taking it overall?
I mean, I feel like I would have my IT governance card pulled on site if I say anything other than network baseline. So I'm sticking with it. Sorry.
I'm actually curious too. It looks like HAL did map this to control 4.2. Would this not be a 4.1 control? Isn't that the one all about baselining initially?
I assumed it was 4.1.
Yeah. So HAL's a little questionable here, I think. I would have expected to see a 4.1 control.
HAL's nuts. We're all in agreement on that.
4.2 is having a process for network infrastructure.
The process.
All right, we'll allow it, HAL. There was the word network in there, and it's the right control family. All right, let's see if Dustin pulls it out with an upset coming up, and we got the final score of upset. Dustin hit it spot on. Oh, another baseline team. I'm getting nervous for Sension right now. It looks like we just need to focus in on logging as a company and make some pivots.
I wonder if
too late to pivot.
PSA and is just sitting there cussing us for bad mouthing HAL. I'm not getting on.
He's screaming from the lounge right now. He's like, right. No, HAL's got this. Did you guys not see the Reddit articles? This is insane. All right, let's keep this going. We're down to the last few matchups. So no behavior blocking versus another log setting, log storage thin. We got the 12 seed going against the 4 seed. Let's kick off with Charity. We got no behavior blocking, malware moves, nothing stops it versus the good old log storage banishing. What do we got?
Yeah, knee jerk is no behavior blocking. I think that just feels way too, free for all, no behavior blocking, which is terrifying from a security and compliance perspective. I'm thinking, I don't know, log storage then's got some, no,
there are some CIS benchmarks with the application log, security log. It is a recommendation by CIS to up those up. So there is some value there on that CIS weight.
Yeah. No, I'm gonna go with gut here. No behavior blocking.
All right, Phyllis, you agreeing with your colleague's gut here? Or are you going to lean back towards, CIS wanting those logs increased, but behavior blocking is going to outweigh just the security value?
Yeah, I'm going to back Charity. No behavior blocking. I think, behavior-based detection is deployed everywhere pretty much, I feel, and so I think it's. I think it's a must-have. I know that HAL likes logs, but I gotta stick with number 4, behavior blocking.
Right. I love it. And I also love saying behavior blocking is kind of deployed everywhere from our MSP panel in London. How do we feel? Well, two things. Is behavior blocking really across the board in MSPs, or is it more sporadic and, to the game? Who do we think is taking the matchup?
EDR is, every single MSP claims to have some form of EDR available, and every EDR claims to have some form of behavior blocking available.
I like the phrasing, very safe.
Is it configured well? Is it configured correctly? Is it relying on insecure defaults? No one knows.
I also still talk to a lot of people that are like, oh yeah, we have MDR, but just on our servers.
Yeah.
Well, they still check mark the box completely.
MDR.
Yeah.
Right,
no behavior blocking is going to be the one that weighs heavier here, I think.
All right, let's get this first half score pulled up. And I think no surprise, we do have no behavior in the first half, but anyone want to go towards that Hal biasy, or is Hal going to be fair and say behavior is going to hold?
I think we're going to see upset here. I think log storage is going to, it loves its logs.
All right, go into logs for Dustin, and let's get the final score pulled up with that compliance weight. We are seeing the behavior hold. Thankfully, from the panel, you can hear a sigh of relief.
I am good with that, to be clear. I think that is the right score.
So funny. Next year, we're gonna have some log settings in the late seeds, and they're just gonna move them all to the last 4 and just put them all forward, and all these other ones are just gonna go down in the first rounds. All right, we got our last 2 matchups. We got I'll have Kelvin kick us off here. We got the good old Ackles, the ACL Wild West going against another Cypher team. So we did see Cypher Sweet Circus go out. So curious if we're going to have an upset or we're going to see both Cypher teams go out in this round. Kelvin, where are we at with your mindset from your very deep 365 knowledge?
Hal's going to love the ACLs, so I'm sticking with him because he's right. He's absolutely
right.
He's the danger of not having complete data governance and people having access to what they should not have access to is much bigger than weak ciphers. So ACLs for sure.
And he brings up governance there, so I got to tap you in, Charity. Is ACL also your pick?
It is, and I will admit to you, I've not been reading your quotes here, and just the permissions everywhere, control nowhere is going to be a dead giveaway for me. So yeah, I fully agree.
I'm thinking of a Misconfiguration Madness online store where it's kind of like the Hobby Lobby with little sayings you can hang up around your house with some nice flowers on the background, a nice fake wood just hang on the wall.
It's clever. I like it. Yeah.
It was very entertaining to put together these slides, to be transparent. I do wish I could guess the winner with you guys, but someone has to make the slides. So going in, let's go ahead and pull up that first half scores. We have a pretty confident ACL, but let's go to Phyllis. Do we think there's going to be a second half upset where ACL goes out?
No, I think it has to be ACL. I think that is so important. That Hal has to choose ACL. The Cypher, I mean, I don't know. Like when you talk about legacy encryption and downgrading, I don't know. I think you can do more with the ACL. So I'm sticking with it. It's more important.
All right. And she said Hal has to keep ACL. Dustin, you agree here?
Oh yeah. I do want to point out, though, that Phyllis's Windows 98 conference room computer couldn't even run TLS.
If TLS can't exist, then it's got to win.
Wins by default. No, I think it's going to keep going. We're going to see a big blowout on this one.
We got Eat Love, please implement IG1 as the newest Hobby Lobby sign.
I like it.
All right, let's see the winner here. Is ACL going to hold? And they sure do. All right, and now we got our final matchup of the round of 32. We were quite surprised with Orphan accounts even making it to the second round, I believe, during the first game, but it is going against admin MFA exempt. So I didn't realize it, but we do have 3 MFA teams in the bracket, one of which has been eliminated, and here is the final and third MFA team. So are we going to have 2 MFA teams making it into the round of 16? Or are we going to see Orphan accounts take the upset? Let's kick off with Phyllis here.
I mean, I think I have to go with the admin MFA exempt. The damage is too great. So I got to go with that one.
Okay. Dustin, Kelvin, I think passionate MFA fan, but correct me if I'm wrong.
I think yet. I'm leaning towards orphan accounts because you don't know what they have access to, right? They're orphan, which means you're not tracking them. A lot of times they're probably not properly being monitored at that point. They might not be locked down at this point, if ever. And then going back to auditability, you already miss it. It's an asset, so we know you at least have a pretty big deficiency on your governance side. So I feel like orphan accounts checks all the boxes we're looking at.
Uh-oh.
Yeah,
I
but
could see a 2 seed go down.
There's the RIS setting, and admin MFAs being exempt from something is something that we're seeing a lot.
It's almost like a current news event.
Almost like a current news event. So I'm going for admin MFA.
Okay, leaning into the Riz. We know a little bit about how Hal thinks now. Let's get the first half score. And Charity, do we think MFA here is going to hold, or is Dustin going to be making a second half splash with orphan accounts?
I mean, I have to support what Phyllis said as well, and then MFA all the way. Authentication is everything. I've seen issues with that before. Again, with the quotes, admin skips MFA, like that gives me anxiety. So yeah, absolutely, definitely.
Yeah, you haven't drifted from the alignment with your fellow colleagues, so we appreciate that in the security configuration world. All right, did my best there. All right, let's get this final score matchup and see who is going to the round.
Ooh, nice.
Ooh, we have a 92. There it is. All right. Well, there is the round of 32. And let's get this conclusion slide to introduce next week's speaker. We have the round of 16. And I think, yeah, round of 16 is next week. And then we're down to our final week where we introduce the final 8 to the 4 to the championship game. And I did mean to give a shout out. We do have a fellow friend, Chris Sears, who submitted a bracket and so far has only gotten a couple wrong and is leading the bracket championship and is at this point most likely to take home the Nintendo Switch for playing in the bracket round. So very excited for Chris Sears of Applied Technology. But I like to kick off just kind of closing out these episodes. We talk about a lot of settings. We try to have a lot of fun, a lot of control families, but really just like to have everyone go around and just kind of say there's a lot of talk about EDR in place. There's a lot of talk about these reactive controls, but this webinar is really about the preventative side of security. So if you have any hot takes or any trends you're seeing on why preventative security is needing to be prioritized more, I'd love to hear it. We can kind of kick off with Dustin, since he knows the routine that I was going to ask something here.
Yeah. No, the MFA, and rightfully so. I mean, that's such an easy. We were talking earlier about the low adoption rates and everything. Microsoft did a 365 report. You probably remember, I think it's 2023, where it's like 99.9% of identity attacks that they saw would have been prevented by properly configured MFA.
Yeah.
Like it's just such an easy table stakes. I hate the insurance industry some days because right now, if you come to me and say, "Hey, Dustin, we don't have MFA," I know like 3 carriers that will still give you a policy, which is absolutely insane to me. And those guys are going to be the ones that are not selling cyber insurance a year from now because they can't afford to. It's 2026. MFA is literally bundled with Google and 365, no matter what license you get. Like, just turn it on, please.
It's with every service. Like, there's not a service you can get right now that doesn't have a form of multi-factor authentication. Enable it, please.
Yeah, I will say even the obviously a lot of vendors popping up with the AI making launching platforms easier, but a lot of them, especially the new security ones, I mean, MFA is still table stakes just to have on your application. Even when there are AI wrappers getting spun up so fast, they still have MFA as an optional configuration. So, Kelvin, as we just asked Dustin, is preventative a trend you're seeing? Are people talking about it more, or is preventative getting backseated just for more EDR and reactive technology?
I want to say that I'm a realist. MSPs love shiny tools over anything preventative. I'm the same. at my MSP, I see something cool and I'm like, ooh, let's implement this, and it makes us more secure. And then you're looking at like, oh yeah, but if we took these 10 measures, we'd be much safer.
No. But threat hunting.
But threat hunting, so cool.
About to throw some shoe shine on my next configuration drift finding and then go pitch Kelvin.
Yeah, exactly. I wish that we as MSPs did better on preventative measures instead of, ooh, shiny new tool.
So do we think that, is that a wish? Is it a trend you're seeing, or it just is what it is and you're not seeing much of a shift?
It's a wish that I hope becomes a trend.
Okay, awesome. And we got Phyllis and Charity. Obviously, controls 1 and 2 is all about asset inventory and all preventative, starting control 1 down to 18, if I can talk correctly. It all starts a priority lift starting furthest left all the way to getting a little bit to the center. Let's have Charity go first here. Are you seeing a trend where people are prioritizing the preventative over reaction, proactive? They're truly doing preventative controls?
Yeah, for sure. And I bet you guys thought I was going to say IT governance, right? But no. No, absolutely. I am very, very biased on IG1. And you mentioned earlier about community defense model, right? And that really does show you your defense posture. And one thing as a former practitioner that I really didn't talk a whole lot about, right? Like I was governance, risk, and compliance. So we talked about, right, and I hate saying this, but the check the box compliance and what it gets you. And banks always want to merge, right? So they have to be in good standing. And I coming to CIS, it's really been eye-opening to be able to say and to be able to put data in the hands of the end user on what defense posture really means, and then it's data driven. And of course, your control inventories, your asset inventories, all the way to the top are going to be absolutely critical. So.
All right, so you are seeing that trend out in the industry. Phyllis, you got a breadth of background, been in the industry for a while, NSA, as you introduced. Are enterprises really moving left and doing these preventative controls we talk about?
I mean, I think they're probably they're harder to implement, which is why everyone likes the shiny tool, right? And so I'm gonna have to tell you one more war story. So
all right.
I had to go out hardship tour. I went out to Hawaii to that theater because there were some breaches happening, and we went and we briefed like I don't know, I think it was like the J6 or whatever, and it was you didn't patch, like decom, blah blah blah. You have to patch, blah 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 blah. And then he says, patching. This was in the early 2000s. That's so 80s. Tell me the tool I can buy. And I feel like that sums it up. And I feel like that attitude still is kind of pervasive today.
Was that an MSP?
No, that was military, the J6 or the J5, in charge of like the network security at Paycom.
You could just unplug and trash the computer and just buy a new one every update. I mean, it all works the same.
But I think, I often get asked, like, besides the first 3 controls, what's the number one thing I should do? Right? Because everyone wants like the tool, right? They want kind of like that easy fix. And so, the preventative controls are not sexy. It takes work. It's tedious. No one wants to count beans and do those kinds of things, but it's important. So I don't necessarily see, trends changing. I mean, we work a lot with enterprise and state, local, and things like that. And of course, I've been working with MSPs. Kelvin knows MSPs way more than I do, but I'm hopeful that it will change.
All right, we got a room where we're all hoping for the same thing. Some evidence.
I'm pointing to Dustin and the insurers to help us with that, to try to elevate that bar. But like Dustin says, like there are insurers who will insure anybody.
It's gonna be an uphill slog. Sorry.
Yeah, it hasn't stabilized. So the insurance industry hasn't stabilized yet. So we don't have those, kind of homeowners insurance minimum requirements or whatever. But I'm still hopeful. I'm still hanging in there.
All right. So we have a realist group of panelists, which is a very accurate sentiment. So appreciate the hot takes there. From what I'm seeing, very much similar. I am seeing compliance start to whether it has teeth or not, the MSP market that I'm serving is seeing or believing that there is teeth. So we are seeing a major uptick in inbound inquiries and seeing what baselines can mean, and specifically around change tracking and proving the baseline is in place and reporting. So it's almost like we're getting more inquiries about how we can prove a test and provide evidence than we do actually remediating to the CIS benchmarks. So I'm hopeful. I am seeing a trend personally with CMMC and our banking partners. And I always talk about cyber insurance. You know, if they do ask for change history, I always ask, how do you show that your settings and your baseline has been in place over time? And hey, so far the response and reception is good in the MSP market, but I don't have much of an enterprise exposure yet. But cool. Thank you, everybody, for hopping in on this episode of Misconfiguration Madness. Next week is the round of Sweet 16 with Wayne Selk from GTIA. So thank you so much for being here, guys.
Thanks. Have
Thanks,
a great
guys.
weekend.
Ready?
Bye.